Hey, this is the Ogre from OutOgre.com, George Hill from WeTheArm.com, Armed American Radio, and of course Slidelock Radio. Thank you for joining me. And today I want to talk about some misconceptions that am getting tired of hearing. I went around town today to some different gun stores, checking out and pricing and seeing what they're doing for various things. And I overheard a lot of misconceptions. Uh, One misconception that I've heard a lot of is that guns like this are unreliable. They're just not to be trusted in any modern way, shape, or form. Uh, that is a misconception that needs to just go away. 1911 pistols are exceptionally reliable. There is a reason that this gun has never really fully left military service since it was adopted in 1911. The reason being is not just because of some people are just traditionalists and they're old school and they need to hold on to the old ways. No, the reason is that they're good shooters. They're exceptionally accurate and they are reliable. This gun right here has never, ever, in my time of owning it and shooting it, jammed. And I kid you not, I've probably shot about 5 cases of ammo through this firearm, personally. This gun has not jammed, not once. How can you be an unreliable gun if you can go through 5 cases around? So we're talking 5,000 rounds of ammo at least, and not have a malfunction. You hear guys talking about, oh, well, my Glock's more reliable. Okay, how are you going to get more reliable than 100% in a firearm? Now, firearms reliability is typically measured in mean rounds between failure. Now, my 1911 is, that's going on 5,000. What's your gun going on? If you believe a 1911 is unreliable, maybe it's because you don't have a clear, true understanding of the mechanics behind the 1911. You don't understand what the 1911, how it operates, how to care for it, how to lubricate it, how to clean it. Maybe the problem's not the gun. Because I tell you what, looking at the market, the 1911 market these days, everybody that makes 1911s is making a decent 1911. Fact. That's just a fact. Even the last 1911s coming out of Para USA here in Charlotte, North Carolina, were good, reliable 1911s. Really, even the Arms Corps, the Rock Islands, the ATIs imported out of the Philippines, even those are well-made, good, solid, reliable 1911s. Even Kimber's making a good 1911 again, for crying out loud. Again, everybody I know that's making a 1911, Taurus is making a good 1911. They're all good. Ruger has a great 1911. Remington has a great 1911. Those Ruger 1911s, honestly, I could buy one. I really could. They're outstanding. Now, the misconception of reliability, maybe even if you do understand the 1911 and you know how to strip it and clean it, maybe you're shooting the wrong ammo. Most of the guys who are having reliability issues, it's because they're shooting reloads. And I tell you what, all the rounds except for 5 individual cartridges. 5 cartridges reloaded for me by my friend Headshot Willie. I shot those 5 and they all cycled fine. But those other cases, 5 cases of rounds that I shot through it, were all factory loaded ammunition. I don't shoot reloads. I really don't. Willie, my buddy Headshot Willie, he gave me those rounds to try out, to test, to see if. And I trust Willie. He's a great reloader. He's got reloading down to a science. So I had no problem shooting his ammo because I knew the care and attention to detail that went into it. So I trusted those rounds. but generally I don't shoot reloads through that gun. Not because, I'm afraid of reloads, but because I don't really shoot other people's reloads, and I haven't been reloading since I had that gun anyway. So factory loaded ammo, and it's factory loaded ammo that is not Remington UMC. If it's ammo in a green and white box, I'm pretty much avoiding it. I don't like that ammo. And everybody I talk to that's had a problem with their gun and it's factory ammo tends to be they're shooting Remington UMC. Now, that's a whole nother discussion right there. Uh, and I don't want to get into that. Remington does make some good ammo. That is just not good ammo. That's all I can say. But everybody's making good 1911s, and if you get good ammunition and you're shooting through it, you know how to take care of it. You're not limp wristing it. You know how to lubricate it properly. From teaching tactical classes, the guys who started having problems with 1911s, generally speaking, it's because the gun ran dirty, ran dry, and it got hot, and that's going to lead to failures. But keep it wet with lube. That gun's pretty much going to keep running. If it's wet, it's slick, and if it's slick, it's going to run. But the only 1911s that do have problems, though, and other guys have pointed it out. Famously, Rod Pincus is famous for dogging on them. But the ultra compacts, I have not had an ultra compact go through any of my classes that ran worth anything. And in classes that I've not been teaching but taking, the people who have had problems with 1911s, they were shooting primarily these ultra compacts. And when I say primarily these ultra compacts, I'm saying primarily Kimber ultra compacts. They're just not going through a full handgun course. They'll start out fine, and they'll shoot 2 or 3 magfuls, and they'll do so with fine reliability and accuracy. But then they start having problems. Probably because the guy's carrying them. Maybe it's because they're not lubricating them properly. And again, it goes back to you're not really understanding your gun. But sometimes, it's just the gun doesn't like to run because the geometry in a compact, in an ultra compact, it's different. I don't like a 1911 that is shorter than 4 inches. So some companies, they don't have commander length, they have a little bit shorter. Instead of 4 1/4, it's just 4 inches. And that's fine. That's fine. A 4-inch gun is fine. I still call that a commander length. But that intermediate length, that's my favorite. And they run fine, they shoot fine, they balance great. This gun here that I've got beside me is a Springfield, and it's a 5-inch gun. It's the standard government model type. This is actually the Springfield GI model, and you can see I just did some work on it today. I've got the beaver tail grip safety installed, a commander hammer, and I put in a new sear. And this is parts I got from Brownells, and they're the Wilson Combat parts. So fantastic trigger pull. We're talking about 3.5 pounds, really crisp, no over travel. The trigger breaks at a hard thought, and outstanding gun. But even though it's not my favorite length, being a full 5-inch, this is an outstanding, reliable, accurate gun. So just love it. The 1911s, you can do so much with them. You can have so much fun with them. Every one of them's a work of art. But these guns can perform. If you are a performer, if you can run a gun properly, you can run a 1911. The gun will keep up with you. The only failings really I'm seeing in 1911s are less in the gun and more in the owner, is all I'm saying. Let's talk about some more misconceptions out there. The Beretta M9. Man, I keep hearing problems about the Beretta M9. People are saying that these guns are always falling apart. They're self-destructing. The slides are breaking and hitting people in the faces. and you just can't trust a Beretta 92 FS or the M9 Beretta. Here's the truth of it. The whole thing about the slide braking, that's old information, and it only happened on a very tiny fraction of a percent of guns. I think maybe the total number of failures was like 19 in early testing, and then Beretta came out with the FS model. Some say it means fixed slide, but really since that time, uh, you know, those problems have been resolved. Now with reliability issues, um, and I don't have one with me. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I've got examples right here. Here's what a Beretta factory magazine looks like. You've got a fairly good floor plate right here, and this is going to mate up and fit with the bottom of the Beretta magazine, or the Beretta magwell, and it's going to be a nice fit. This is exactly how you want your magazine to look. Now, the people who've had problems usually it's in the military, and they're guys using a aftermarket magazine made by a subcontractor, not to the same standards. And I've got one right here, and it doesn't have the same floor plate on it. It's got a little company logo. Let's see if you can see that. Right there. Checkmate. Well, if you were over in the sandbox and you were issued a Beretta and you were issued a bunch of magazines, you might have had some magazines from Checkmate. Checkmate is not Beretta. They're making a magazine that looks similar to a Beretta mag, but you can see that follower. It's just a stamped sheet metal follower where they took a piece of sheet metal and folded it, and they're saying that's the floor plate. Did I say follower? I didn't mean follower. I mean floor plate. Sorry. I'm tired. It is 11 p.m. Roughly, and I've had a long day. But I wanted to talk about these misconceptions. The Beretta magazines, you know, this goes for all semi-automatic guns. They're magazine dependent. What the magazine is, it's a simple box with a spring in it. But if that magazine can't get this up into the gun in time, in proper timing, that gun is not going to work. Now, if you've got, now this is a disposable part. You use these until they stop working. You can either clean them, refurbish them, or discard them. They're disposable. You get rid of it. Now, this is not the gun. Now, how can Beretta guarantee that their gun is going to work perfectly with this when they don't make it? They don't make this. They had nothing to do with this. They make this. Now, this was sent to me by a friend. I've got some of these coated with MP3. Very nice. I recommend them highly if you can find them. If you can't find them, send your Beretta factory mags, the ones that say Beretta made in Italy. Get that. Send it off to get MP3 coated. Fantastic. Now, you can't judge a gun on how it performs with parts that that company didn't make. Yet that's what people are doing with Beretta. I mean, that's like, I can't even make a metaphor or an analogy on that. That's just so stupid. You know, I can't take my Ford into Chevy and complain that my Ford's not running right and it's Chevy's fault because Chevy made a crappy car when they didn't make it. It's kind of the same thing that's going on here. You've got Checkmate magazines that are jamming up Beretta-made guns. Beretta has nothing to do with that. You can't hold them accountable for that. That's not their problem. That's Checkmate's problem. Do you know who sucks? Not Beretta. Checkmate. Simple as that. Well, most of those magazines, you know, in these Checkmate mags that I've got here, you know, I've actually had no problems with them. But do you know what I did? I disassembled them, I cleaned them out, reassembled them. I've got I've got them functioning fine because I took care of them. But I have a feeling if I was to take those over into the sandbox, where you've got serious issues with dust contamination going into things, all the little nooks and crannies, yeah, I can see that being a problem. I can see that. Beretta Mags, though, didn't have that same problem. The other thing about the Beretta, oh, they're inaccurate. I have found my Beretta pistols to be exceptionally accurate. I've had no problems with accuracy. Um, Even my current Beretta M92 that I've literally shot the rifling out of is still a more accurate gun than most guns out there. It's exceptionally accurate. Now, if I've got a gun that's exceptionally accurate and I can shoot one whole groups with it, and I give it to you and you can't hit with it, again, the problem's not the gun, sir. The problem is you. You are not accurate with that gun. It's not an inaccurate gun. It's an inaccurate shooter. Take ownership of your own faults. Okay? Be responsible. Okay? You're responsible for your shot groups. Don't blame the gun. Don't blame the ammo. Well, if you're shooting Remington UMC, maybe you can blame the ammo. But take ownership that you can't shoot the Beretta. Simple as that. I can shoot the Beretta. I know Ernest Langston can shoot the Beretta. I know a lot of guys. Tom H. Nelson, our friend Tommy from the Gun Dudes. He can shoot a Beretta. My buddy Ryan Horst up in West Virginia, he can shoot a Beretta. And Eric Stern, Paul Aldridge, I know these guys can shoot the Berettas just fine. But you say the Berettas they're not accurate? I'm trying to identify where the problem is here. Let's see. Everybody else is shooting the Beretta fine. You're not shooting the Beretta fine. You're not shooting Remington UMC ammo or reloads. Maybe, sure. The problem is that you can't shoot the Beretta. Now, the Beretta is not the easiest of guns to shoot. Best comparison is, people are going to talk about the Glocks because the Beretta has a double action, single action trigger pull. Now, if you're one of those guys that say you can't handle the change between a double action pull and a single action trigger pull in the mechanism once this gun cycles and cocks itself and now the trigger's reset into a single action mode, you can't figure this out. You can't wrap your brain around a DA-SA trigger pull. Yet you're still capable of articulating in a stress situation, don't shoot scenarios, processing sight picture, sight alignment, and trigger pull, and you can make all these judgment calls, but you're not capable of doing a double action, single action trigger pull. I don't get that. That's a disconnect. Tell me where I'm wrong on this. Now, I know there's a lot of guys who advocate single action type trigger pulls or safe actions, the Glock trigger pulls essentially, striker fired guns, M&Ps, Glocks, XDs, whatever it is. They're advocating that because of simplicity and consistency, and that's fine. If you're consistent with the gun, you can be accurate with the gun. I get that. I get that. But this isn't rocket surgery. And there's one thing I can do on that Beretta that you can't do with a Glock, because a Glock is not fully cocked. When you pull that trigger, part of that trigger pull is actually pulling the striker back the last little way, and then it lets it go. Well, I'm going to demonstrate on this 1911. Say this was a Beretta, and pretend this Beretta was in double action mode. Well, I'm going to hold the gun like thus, and I'm going to take my offhand thumb, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to cock that gun just like that. Now, if I cock this gun, I'm now in single action mode, and all the follow-up shots are in single action mode. Speed shooters, Bob Munden, and other shooters from the Single Action Shooting Society can draw and fire a single action gun and cock it very, very quickly. And I invite you to go to YouTube and look up these videos. Um, you can thumb cock this gun. Now, here's what I don't get. I've actually had people tell me while I was on the range shooting by myself, just me in my own lane amongst other lanes with a few other shooters on there. I will at times use my offhand thumb and cock that firearm. Um, and people will dog on me, dude, you're not supposed to do that. Why not? Why can't I use my opposing thumbs and put the gun into a mode of fire that I can make that first shot more accurate and get a better shot placement with it? Why can't I do that? If I'm in a tactical situation where I have the ability, the time to do that, either on the draw stroke, when you come out of the holster, you come up into a high compress, why not thumb cock it there? And then I can punch out and make an accurate shot, just as if it was a Glock or an M&P or an XD or whatever it is that you advocate that's better than the Beretta or the SIG. The same arguments, I've heard the same arguments against SIG Sauers. You hear them less often though, because everybody knows, well, Navy SEALs use SIG Sauers. And nobody's going to call a Navy SEAL a dumbass for using the double action, single action gun. And you know what? I know a SEAL guy. And I know that he will often thumb cock that hammer back to make that first shot. Why? Because he can. Why does he do that? Because it makes that first shot more accurate for him. Why not do it? There's nothing in the manual, and there's no rules that I've read anywhere in gunfighter, the gunfighter rules, because there are no rules for gunfighters, that say you can't put a double action gun into a single action mode if it's mechanically capable of that. There's nothing that says you can't do that. So that's a misconception. You don't have to shoot that first shot double action. If you've got a certain model of a gun, I believe it's the 92D, that the gun is a double action only, well, then of course you can't put it into a single action mode because it doesn't have it. But dude, stop hating on the Beretta. The Berettas are exceptionally reliable guns, and they're exceptionally accurate guns for those who know how to operate them. Again, let's go back to the AR-15 and 1911 arguments. If you know how to operate them, if you know how to care for them, if you know how to feed them properly, they will be perfectly reliable. And quite frankly, Glocks have the same thing. You got to know how to take care of them. Just like you have to know how to take care of any gun. If you're going to buy something that you are going to risk your life on, why would you not take the time to really learn and understand the mechanical function of this important device? An important device and an expensive device. If you don't know how to operate it, you don't know how to take care of it properly. And if you don't know how to take care of it properly, how are you going to rely on it to basically be your parachute? I say this before, I call my carry gun my ripcord, because that's what I pull when everything goes wrong and I need to bail out. That's what that is for, to either fight my way to my long gun or to fight my way out of that situation completely. So, I'm going to, if I have a gun that I'm going to depend on for defensive purposes, I'm going to learn everything I can about the functions mechanically. I'm going to learn how to operate it efficiently, and I'm going to get the very best ammo I can to feed it so that when I need it, it's going to be as effective, and I'm going to be as effective as possible with it. Now, if you're not doing that, well, you're sad and I don't want to talk to you anymore. But if you want to learn, well, stay tuned to Slidelock Radio and we'll discuss these as they come up. But these misconceptions I heard today just pissed me off. I didn't say anything, because I don't want to be that guy, because they don't know me. They don't know who I am. And yeah, they're wrong, but it's not my place of business, and I'm not obligated to correct every wrong person that I meet or hear. Same thing with on the internet. I'm not obligated to correct everybody on the internet, so why bother doing it in public? He wasn't saying any dangerous information, so I didn't feel compelled to interject. He was just saying stupid information that was wrong because he wanted to sell his personal favorite gun, which happens all the time in gun stores. And of course, the gun that he wanted to sell was he wanted to sell a Glock, or it might have been an M&P with the Beretta guy. But guys, it's real simple. Know your gun. Know your gun. Anyway, 25 minutes long. This is a little bit longer, I believe, than the last episode. My apologies. But thank you for joining me. And next time we'll talk about something else that's either been bothering me or we've got questions. And of course, as always, if there's anything you disagree with that you can argue in an articulate manner, if you can point out where I am wrong, be my guest to do so in the comments on Slidelock Radio's Facebook page, even in the YouTube comments. Feel free. But thanks for joining me, and we will talk to you next time. Cheers.